Members, imagine a sunny and unseasonably warm October Sunday in Minnesota. Imagine you convincing your wife to hop on a boat for the last boat ride of the season. Imagine having your kids playing along with neighbor kids on board. Imagine your 7-year-old daughter not feeling well and going down to rest in one of the lower cabin bedrooms. Imagine yourself going to the cabin of your boat to check on your daughter and realizing that her lifeless body is on the ground. Members, this was not an imaginary story, and it's not a hypothetical situation. This nightmare scenario actually happened to my constituents, the Beckler family. Their daughter, 7-year-old Sophia Beckler, succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning only minutes after arriving on their boat. I will never forget where I was when I heard the news about Sophia's tragic death on October 11th. I joined our community in mourning Sophia's passing in Edina. Hundreds and hundreds of unknown community members and neighbors had pink balloons all over our community. Pink was Sophia's favorite color. At the funeral, both parents who are here with us today, Dr. Courtney and Dr. Ben Beckler, on separate occasions separately told me something had to be done to prevent this nightmare from becoming another family's reality. You see, instead of mourning in private, the Becklers made their story public and have provided compelling testimony many of you here have heard. There were 4 adults and 5 children on board. Everyone in the boat could have died within minutes. A carbon monoxide detector could have saved and prevented all those on board from carbon monoxide poisoning and even would have possibly saved Sophia's life. As doctors, both Dr. Courtney Beckler and Ben Beckler were helpless to save their beautiful daughter. She was too unstable to benefit from treatment at HCMC, which is the only place in Minnesota where we have a hyperbaric chamber to treat CO exposure. As many of you know, carbon monoxide is a toxic, odorless, tasteless gas that is life-threatening if you become exposed to it within minutes. According to the Centers for Disease Control, more than 800 boat-related carbon monoxide accidents have been identified in 35 states since the data was collected or started to be collected 15 years ago. In Minnesota, some of you wonder, how often does this happen? We don't have a robust reporting system, but we know there were 44 non-fire cases of carbon monoxide poisoning deaths. And of those, we know 35 have not identified a source, and 2 incidents have been identified as boat-related poisoning. We just don't do a good job getting this data right now. And we need to do a better job to collect this data, similar to the CDC. The bill in front of you today, Senate File 2678, is a bill in collaboration with stakeholders such as the Department of Natural Resources, the boating industry, including the American Boat and Yacht Council and the National Marine Manufacturers Association. And we bring forward this bill today to address the issue. I do want to take a moment to point members to some handouts on your desk. One is a story of the Beckler family and a picture of Sophia. And in her memory, we're moving this bill forward. And I also want to recognize some of the supporters of this bill. Alina Health, Sheriff Richard Stanek, who sent a letter of support. The National Electric Manufacturers Association sent another letter of support. And a list of supporters, including the Children's Minnesota Hospitals, Fairview Health Services, Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare, Health East Care System, Hennepin County Medical Center, Mayo Clinic, Minnesota Ambulance Association, Minnesota Chapter of the Academy of Emergency Physicians, Minnesota Hospital Association, Minnesota Medical Association, Minnesota Medical Group Management Association, Regions Hospital, and Twin Cities Medical Society, and I know many, many others support this bill. In terms of the specifics, members, you do have the bill section by section. I will quickly walk you through that. Section 1 of the bill defines the enclosed accommodation compartment for the purposes of the requirement of this bill, which requires marine carbon monoxide detection system. It defines the enclosed occupancy compartment for the purposes of requiring a carbon monoxide warning label. And it defines marine carbon monoxide detection system that are in line with the American Boat and Yacht Council. Remember, this bill requires carbon monoxide detectors for boats that have an enclosed accommodation as defined under the bill. It also requires labels or stickers that warn to the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning and help educate boaters of the risk. Those stickers or labels will be required for boats over boats of 19 feet or larger. And it requires the effective date of May 1st, 2017 for boats with enclosed accommodation compartments to have a functioning marine carbon monoxide detection system if you're going to be operating a boat inside of Minnesota or sold in the state. Another section provides for state-sponsored boating safety courses that must be incorporated to inform of the dangers of CO detection and poisoning and how to prevent it. The following section requires, beginning of May 2017, that boats with enclosed occupancy compartments have the carbon monoxide warning labels in the aft reboarding stern area and the steering section and the entrance to an enclosed occupancy compartment, and that dealers must ensure that the warning labels are placed before the motorboat is sold. The following section directs the Commissioner of Natural Resources to mail these labels to motorboat owners of watercrafts 19 feet or greater in length in the first year. And the subsequent years, it requires the Commissioner and licensed agents to distribute information and the labels. It provides for the first violation is a safety warning, and the second or subsequent violation is a petty misdemeanor. And the fifth section directs the Commissioner of Natural Resources to report to the legislature by November 1st of 2018 on the implementation of this law and any changes in industry standards related to carbon monoxide poisoning, best practices in preventing poisoning, and including the feasibility of requiring more sensitive carbon monoxide detectors. Section 6 appropriates $210,000 from the Water Recreation account to the Commissioner of Natural Resources for the purposes of implementing this law, and directs the Commissioner to seek federal and other non-state money to produce and distribute the carbon monoxide warning labels. The final section, members, cites this act as Sophia's Law. I want to thank all the folks that have been working on this, all the stakeholders, including at the national level, that have helped guide and change some of the language in the bill through committee. I also want to thank the family who has brought their story to the public to make this awareness possible. And I also want to remind members that Minnesota is a land of 10,000 lakes, and that it's our responsibility as policymakers to ensure that we do all we can to keep families and Minnesotans safe on our waters. The bill is a step into achieving this goal, and Minnesota has the opportunity to be a leader and be the first state to pass this important legislation, which could prevent future boating tragedies related to carbon monoxide. And I urge members to vote green in loving memory of Sophia. I stand for questions.
Are there any questions? Senator Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Franzen for bringing this forward. The Beckler family has close ties to the Winona community, and some of the members of the family still live in Winona. And when the news broke about Sophia's death, it hit our community pretty hard. And it's a very, very difficult thing to talk about. But Senator Franzen, I want to especially thank you for working together with the stakeholders, bringing folks together, getting the family involved. Members, this ought to be how more bills get done around this place, bringing folks together and including all the stakeholders. And to the family, please know that we're thinking about you. You're in our thoughts and our prayers. And again, Senator Franzen, thank you for bringing this important bill forward.
Senator Bonoff.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, rise in support of this bill and want to thank Senator Franzen for bringing it forward. I represent the community of Lake Minnetonka, as does Senator Osmek, and so our communities, too, were absolutely struck by the enormous tragedy that occurred. And so our hearts break in this Senate as we hear Sophia's story and are now able to take an action which could prevent this in the future. So it seems to me that in some ways this might be one of the more important votes we take this session, because no family should have to endure what they endured. So again, thank you, Senator Franzen, and my deepest condolences on behalf of the community that I represent to the family.
Is there any more discussion? The Secretary will give Senate File 2678 its third reading.
Senate File Number 2678, a bill for an act relating to natural resources, creating Sophia's Law, requiring marine carbon monoxide detection systems on certain motorboats.
Secretary will take the roll. All members having voted, all members having voted that desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 61 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Senator Bach.
Madam President, I move a recess of the Senate and then yield to Senator Franzen.
On the motion to recess, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The Senate is in recess. Senator Franzen.
Madam President, thank you, and thank you, members, for giving me a moment to have a brief recess to recognize the Beckler family who's here with us today. Dr. Ben Beckler, Courtney Beckler. We also have Sophia's grandparents, Rosemary, Michael, Ben's brother and uncle of Sophia, Andy, and sister-in-law Mary and Ann. So I want to recognize you for being here and thank you for making your story, Minnesotan story, and thank you for your support in making this happen today. And I also want to recognize another person who helped with some of the language in the bill, Ray and Glenda Sreggy, who also are here and have similar, although not as tragic ending as Sophia, but similar story that also wanted to share that with us to make this bill even stronger. So thank you, members, for giving me a moment to recognize the family.
The Senate will come to order. The next bill on special orders agenda is